And we are back with another episode of the Hockey Princess podcast. Guys, we are a year old officially today. A year and a day by the time that this episode drops. But this is our 1 year. Happy 1 year to us. Just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Hold on.
Yes?
I've got a little nut thingy and our 1 year candle.
Oh, what? Your cupcake?
I don't know what it is. My mother-in-law made it. Does it look like something that would come out of the dog?
Yes.
I don't know exactly what it is. I'll ask my woman. But I got us a candle for our anniversary.
Hold on. That's awesome. Sorry, friends that are listening. We had to take a picture of our little birthday cake.
Hey, my woman. What is this? Your mom made them?
Oh, I have no idea. Some gross chocolate ball.
We have no idea. Okay.
But happy birthday to us.
Okay.
So, if you're new,
for those who don't think, I don't care about this show and I'm not creative. There you go.
You're very creative. So, for those who have been listening the whole year, or if you're new, because I know we did get some new followers and fans with our 1 year post. So, if you're new, welcome to the show. If you've been with us for the whole year, thanks. Just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. Let's get into it. Guys, it's a good day. It's a good time to be a hockey fan. You know why? Because Tomo Ruutu is one step closer to achieving my dream for him. And the Florida Panthers are back to the Cup final, unfortunately, against your Edmonton Oilers. I hope the Panthers sweep them. I don't think we're getting a full sweep, but I'd like to see, of course, I'd like to see the Panthers win. If I had to make a prediction, I would think it's a game 6 or a game 7. Gosh, I hope it's game 6 because game 7s always make me nervous. It should be interesting. Should be very, very interesting. But I hope the Panthers win. I think they did great against the Rangers. I definitely think they are the better team in terms of if you just compare both of the rosters on paper. And I think throughout this postseason, they have had to play better teams and go through tougher goaltenders and harder scenarios than the Edmonton Oilers in the West.
I'll give you that. Are we talking about this now?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Just checking. Yes, I too am glad that Florida is back in it. As far as your Edmonton Oilers, yes, I would be very frightened of them. They have decided to and figured out how to play defense. They have figured it out that the objective is not to let the other team score when you get to these later rounds and then just try to bury your opportunities when they happen. And they shut down Dallas the last 2 games. That's for darn sure. I think game 6, when I looked, it was like 20-something shots to like 6. And I did not watch game 7, but was it a game 7 or a game 6?
Game 6.
Game 6, and they did basically the same thing too. Got off to a quick lead and then didn't give Dallas a ton of opportunities.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's going to be easy for Florida, but I don't think Florida's had it easy in this postseason at all. I mean, you go through Vasilevsky, Swayman, and Shesterkin. That's an accomplishment in itself. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park by any means, but, Edmonton's scary. I think Florida has the potential to be scarier because at the end of the day, Bobrovsky is a heck of a better goaltender than Stuart Skinner.
Yeah, but the last 3 games that Edmonton's played, how many goals has Skinner given up? Not many. As I said, they've learned how to play defense. They've learned to fight another day and not risk too many things. It will be very difficult. They have not faced a team like Florida. They haven't faced a team that's that physical. But I think they've learned a huge lesson against Dallas.
That's the thing. Like you said, Florida is physical, and Florida can be dirty if they want to or need to. We definitely saw that in the Boston series and definitely saw it against New York. They can be gritty. They can outdo Edmonton in that. Partially because I think that Evander Kane and Corey Perry are all bark and no bite. And I think there's some guys on Florida that are quite a bit nastier. And I'm also really petty that I don't want the Edmonton Oilers to win because I don't think Corey Perry should be hoisting the cup at the end of this season.
Yeah, we'll see. Perry will be a non-factor. Kane will be a factor. Kane and Kachuk will go after it. They've got history.
Kachuk's a better hockey player.
Yeah, but they've got history, and Kane's not an awful hockey player either. As far as nastiness, I mean, Sam Bennett is as nasty as they come. So, yes, he is going to hit Draisaitl and Connor McDavid early and often, some legal, some illegal. I don't think he cares. So it's going to pose a problem for Edmonton. But as I said, with the way they played against Dallas, Edmonton has figured out,
all of
relax. We can play in between the blue lines forever. When we get our shot, we'll bury it. And the problem with Florida's game is they like to play on the edge. And then if they play on the edge and you're giving away power plays, that could pose a huge problem.
I don't know. I'm still going with Florida, partially because that's what I predicted at the beginning.
Well, there's been nobody left that I've predicted. So basically, y'all, your listeners have figured out that I'm just an idiot. I'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah.
Did you want to break down the finals at all? Talk about lines? Just nah. Yes, no, maybe so. Sure.
We can break it down.
Okay. What do you want to break down? Okay, we got goaltending, as Hockey Princess has pointed out.
Any day.
Bob has played extremely well. The only thing with Bob is, he's played against even better goaltenders. Stuart Skinner is a proven unknown commodity who all of a sudden is playing really well. Can he continue it?
Maybe.
I don't know. There's going to be more people in his kitchen than there have ever been. So they're going to be all over the net. That's just the way Florida plays. So, I mean, that's a definite edge to Florida. I mean, Bob has been through this many, many times. As far as defensive cores, they both got pretty good defensive cores. Cody Ceci has played really well for the Edmonton Oilers. And, of course, Bouchard and Ekholm have been more than fine. Their third pairing is suspect a little bit. Again, Florida's pretty solid. Huh?
You got the Goose, who's been having an incredible postseason.
Yeah, the Goose has had a major league coming out party. I hope that continues because this will be completely on a national spotlight. And we're big fans of the Goose on this program. But Ekblad's played really well. Montour, they've got Oliver Ekman-Larsson is on the third pair. That's your weak spot. That's something you attempt to exploit. I mean, I'd give a tiny edge to Florida, not a huge one. It'll be the finals. You'll see a lot of, the top two pairs put in a lot of minutes. And the bottom pair will depend on how the game goes. I expect all of this to be pretty low scoring. Unless that first game gets a little weird, but that would be it.
Yeah.
And then the forward lines, it's the usual stuff with Edmonton. Their top two lines are usually better than anybody else's. And it's a depth issue. But they do have Adam Henrique back. Go ahead there, Hockey Princess.
What I was going to say, and I feel like Edmonton versus Florida is a little bit similar to New York versus Florida. It will, if Edmonton chooses to play that the way that New York did, especially during the final game between New York and Florida. You look at the timesheet, and Laviolette had his top 6 guys playing an insane amount of minutes, having a lot of pressure on them, where you see Florida's timesheets and everybody's pretty much distributed evenly. And that seemed to really work for Florida and be a major flaw for New York. And so fingers crossed, I'm hoping that Edmonton sort of does the same thing, because I do think they do rely quite a bit on their top 6 guys for Edmonton, and that will be a weak spot for them in terms of when their bottom 6 comes out, because Florida plays pretty much evenly in terms of time.
Oh, there's a definite for that. We can tell your listeners the discrepancy and how Florida has outscored their opponents in the third period is frightening. And that's from wearing them down. But again, the difference will be the Rangers had the bread man who couldn't find the net. Draisaitl will find the net. If he's left open over there, he'll bury those shots. And they've got the best player on the planet who is going to get his at some point in time. So they can do a whole team effort. At times, he's just hard to contain. It's just the way it is. He's just that good coming off the rush. So I think that's the other difference. I don't think the top players on Edmonton are going to go silently like the Rangers did. Their best player was probably Lafreniere. But Florida's bottom 6 has some good talent, a lot of good juice. My hope is that Edmonton trots out Corey Perry for every game, because Florida's bottom 6 is too young. He can't keep up with them. I mean, Evander Kane might be also a slightly dirty player, but Evander Kane's still got some decent wheels, where Corey Perry has no wheels and has no defense. So, but that's where Florida is hopefully going to make it up, is on the bottom 6. They're going to roll all 4 lines. I think Edmonton will attempt to do that, and then they'll see how the game goes.
Yeah.
If they try to go heavy minutes the first 2 periods, those guys are going to have nothing left.
Right.
And I believe they'll target Draisaitl, and they will be hitting him early and often. So, but yeah, I would give the forward group again. I'd call that a draw. So
it'll be interesting. First game's on Saturday. Very, very excited. Also just be very, very excited to see like behind the scenes and like fan videos, because for those who have not been to Edmonton, there's a little area right outside of their arena, and that will have to be absolutely bananas. That and the casino that's in the same building as the arena.
Yeah, and that's the other cool thing about, this is like the Super Bowl for them. I get all you wacky dressed up people and all you other wacky people doing stuff to get on camera. It's very entertaining. Blackhawks have never had anything like that where there's been a gathering. I don't see that ever changing, but who knows? But
I
even
still don't see that ever changing. I mean, mainly just because of location. Like the United Center doesn't have any sort of setup like that.
yes, that is correct.
Where I feel like Edmonton and Tampa, and there's a couple of other ones where they've got the little area with restaurants right outside of the place where they have the ability to do that. We are a parking lot outside.
Yeah, so they could maybe do something with the parking lot for away games, but then it's the city's got a whole ton of stuff always going on, and then you're talking about trying to get enough police presence there. Also, I think the city would just rather not have any of that.
Yeah.
So, I think that's about all I've got on the finals. We've talked about each team a good amount in every segment so far. Everybody should know the key players. That's pretty easy to figure out. It could be a stamp on Connor McDavid being one of the top 5 players of all times. The one thing he's got to attain is a cup. So this is as close as he's ever been.
Yeah. Yeah, should be interesting, should be entertaining, and whether it goes in our favor of Florida doing well or not, we'll have a lot to report on that come next week because they should be pretty close to done by the next time we record. It'll at least be like game 3 or game 4.
Yeah, it'll be a game 3, so I would assume we won't have it even figured out. So, but
should be interesting. Jumping to our next topic, which is my favorite topic of the year, guys, we get to start talking about the draft. For those who are new, the draft is the last weekend in June. It is going to be Friday the 28th for round 1, and then Saturday the 29th for rounds 2 through 7. We'll be talking about it a little bit every week leading up to the draft. We'll talk a little bit of the top 5 or 6 prospects this week. Next week, we'll do our Blackhawk predictions, and then the following week, we'll do what our predictions are and how we think the first round is going. Should be entertaining, should be fun. Let's get into it. In no particular order. I mean, I am going to start with the number 1, but that's because we all know it. Macklin Celebrini is going to San Jose. But after this, it's in no particular order of how I think it's going to go. It's just how I have them written down in my notebook. So first one, Macklin Celebrini, easy. He's been set to be the number 1 pick for this year's draft since March of 2023 when he was playing for the Chicago Steel. So he will be your newest San Jose Shark. I would imagine that he immediately goes to San Jose, especially with Will Smith signing his entry-level contract for the San Jose Sharks. So he will make the jump to San Jose next year. I would figure that's a little bit more incentive for Mac to start now. I mean, you get more money, you get to be on the big stage, and you got another younger guy to be friends with, so you're not just friends with a lot of AHL veterans.
Yeah, Celebrini is a special player. We got to see him with the Steel last year. And, as we talked about before, he kind of went through the motions for about a period and a half, and his team was down. And then he just decided to take over, and he was able to take over. He had a one-timer in between the face-off dots and the blue line on a power play that just was impressive. He was beaver tailing for the puck, got it, and buried it. And then he blew by a couple other people on a breakaway. He'll be a special talent. He's a step below a Connor Bedard.
I would say so. There's a massive book. Shout out to the people who work with elite prospects. There's a massive book that they put out every year for the draft. This year it is slightly over 1,900 pages. They compared Bedard to Patty Kane last year, and this is a Jonathan Toews comparison. So both very, very talented. The potential is endless for both of them, but just slightly different types of players.
Yeah, Connor's just a little bit more offensive, definitely more creative. And Celebrini can play a 200-foot game. So he'll be fun to watch from the get-go.
Definitely fun. Some other little tidbits for Macklin Celebrini. 6-foot centerman. My guess is I think he is one of the few that actually could, continue to play center out of this draft class. There's a lot that are like center, but then could easily then, a couple of years down the line pop to the wing. My feeling is that he's more of a centerman that could very much stay as a center. Just finished his freshman year at Boston University, and like I said, he will probably make the jump to San Jose and not continue in Boston. He's your number one. He's a superstar. So it should be very entertaining. Next, I'm going to purposely go out of order on how I think this is going to fall. So next, we've got from the Medicine Hat Tigers, your Caden Lindstrom, who is sitting at a whopping 6'4" forward. He's been compared to Rupe Hintz. My other comparison from what I've seen is very much of a Juraj Slafkovsky from the Montreal Canadiens. He is a huge dude. He has the ability to, even at his young age, use his physical presence and definitely pound some people on the boards as much as you can in the CHL. Definitely has the ability to just outforce everyone. Just incredibly dominant. The only thing that some people did notice throughout this year is there were flashes of potential. It wasn't completely consistent throughout the whole year. It was more just flashes of what could be. I definitely think he is going top 5. He's definitely one that could the Hawks pick at 2? Sure. We got a lot of small guys. It definitely benefits us to have a bigger body. I definitely think that he is top 6 potential. I can't guarantee because I can't guarantee anybody and how they're going to fall bottom or top 6. But I definitely think he is similar to Colton Dach in the sense of I do think he's more top 6 potential, but I also think he could fit really anywhere on the roster potentially. Because of his size. Could he do a bit of damage on the 4th line? Sure. Do I think he's going to stay on the 4th line when he makes it to the NHL? No. But yeah, Caden Lindstrom should be interesting. Could be your future Chicago Blackhawk.
Yeah, not going to happen, but as you find out going through draft stuff and everything, there's not a lot of huge players with good offensive skills and good hands and good wheels. Lindstrom seems to check most of those boxes, maybe not incredible wheels. His drawback is he didn't play a full season. He was out. He was out with a back. How bad's the back?
Yeah.
That's the first thing. For any of your old Blackhawk fans that listen, Eric Daze, we watched go through back problems forever. That's the one flag on him is the back and everything. But the rest is there's just not a lot of huge dynamic players. And he seems to fit that. That's why he's going to go very high.
Yeah.
He could be a staple number 1 center for years. Or it might take him a little while, depending on where he's drafted. It will also depend on how he projects and goes. You look at a Quentin Byfield who, was lucky enough in certain ways to go to the Kings that already had talent there. And he's been able to go through a 3rd and 4th line role as he's been moving up. And if he goes to somebody like Montreal, he'll have that ability because they've already got some forwards that can play. He doesn't have to come and save the team like a Connor Bedard, like a Macklin Celebrini. So, he's a good player. As far as any of this stuff, it's it's not an exact science. You've seen people whiff all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, you know.
I will say, because there have been some, comments, concerns, just with hockey in general on size, that yes, you do have incredibly talented hockey players that are smaller. Not everyone needs to be 6'5". That's how the game is evolving. It is getting a lot faster than what it was 5-10 years ago. I completely agree with that. But also, at the end of the day, you're going to face teams like Vegas or Edmonton or Dallas, who, if you do not have a couple of guys that are bigger, you are going to get your butt handed to you in the physical sense for 60 minutes. And it's going to hurt the players just as much as it hurts the fans to watch it.
Yeah, and the other thing is playoff hockey is different than regular season hockey, and come playoff hockey, you need some size.
Yeah.
The best way to describe it is, yeah, you've got a player like Andrew Shaw, but see, if I've got my other littler guys or even my bigger guys going to hit Andrew Shaw, it's no big deal. If you're hitting a Brian Bickle, even if you're the one inflicting it, it's taking something out of you. A Caden Lindstrom, when you go to hit him, you're going to feel that. For those who remember the Blackhawk days of, way gone by, at times you would go full steam into a Dustin Bufflin and it didn't do anything. You hurt yourself more than you were going to hurt him. And again, it's harder to move these guys out in front of the net. And come playoff time, everybody plays in front of the net. He's got the tools and he's got the size. And as you go through stuff, there's just not a ton of size in the league anymore. I mean, that you see each draft. So, grabbing one of those like Montreal did a couple of years ago, it's important. It could be a centerpiece.
Yeah. Next one, we've got my favorite guy to talk about ever. You're Artie the Sparty. You got Artyom Levshina from Michigan State, right-handed defenseman, sitting at a 6'2", typically compared to your Charlie McAvoy or your Zach Werenski from Belarus. Do I think he immediately makes the jump from to wherever team that he gets drafted to? No, I think he does spend one more year at Michigan State, which is fine. Even if we don't draft him, he's not in a rush. Go have a little bit of school. Is there potential for him to be the number one D-man with whatever team that he gets drafted to? Yes. Is there potential for him to be on the top two pairing? Sure. Like Krusty said, it's not an exact science. Biggest thing for him is he is very defensively skilled. There are a lot of complaints that he is not a flashy, entertaining, fun guy to watch. There's nothing wrong with, doing your job and it being safe. It doesn't have to be flashy because guess what? It still needs to get done. There's a ton of offensively skilled defensemen that are a lot more fun to watch, but you still need some guy who can very much, get the puck out of your own end. So that's the biggest complaint for him. Also, he definitely has quite a bit of size. I saw him the end of February when Michigan State was playing Ohio State, and there's a bigger complaint of him not using his physicality. As a big Alex Vlasic fan, I don't see that there's anything wrong with, being a bigger guy and not necessarily using that to constantly hit everyone into the boards. I think there are other ways to use your physicality and use your size that isn't that when you're a defenseman. And I think we see that with Alex Vlasic. He's a big dude. We see his extended reach and his just ability to be huge and not in an incredibly super physical, aggressive sense. But yeah, so.
Yeah, he's a player that you saw play live. We've both seen play a little bit. Um, he is not flashy. He did have an unbelievable assist on the goal against Michigan in the Big Ten tourney. I think that was the Big Ten final game or whatever. What I noticed is an unbelievably smart player. Um, he reads the game quickly. He understands right away if he's not going to make it to the puck first. And instead of worried about trying to get to the puck first, he's already thinking of how he's going to defend and smash somebody into the boards. The other thing that people start to talk about is ceiling isn't as high. I beg to differ on that. He's from Belarus. He came over and played in the in the U for 1 year and then went to Michigan State. This guy has just started to grow his game. It just started. His floor is high. His ceiling is also high. Can he be an offensive threat? I believe so. There's others who don't think he can. Yes, I believe he can be an offensive threat also. He's got all of the tools. As I said, he's a smart guy out there. He's a very smart player. He gets the game. He gets the game, how the game's played. Don't have to worry about this scenario now, but now that this person's going to do this, there's X, Y, and Z. He's got a lot of that figured out, and some of that can't be taught.
He's very calculated.
Yes, very, very calculated. The skating's fine. He's not a bad skater at all. He is a physical player. As he is physical as some D-men in the draft? No. There's some thumpers in this draft, but he's more than capable to knock it on down. Does he have the ability to be a number one? I think if you consider Charlie McAvoy a number one defenseman, yes, could he be yes, easily. He is not going to give you that Makar flash. He's not going to give you that Quentin Hughes flash. But come playoff time, he's somebody you can trot out there for 25 minutes and can win games for you. So, he's also a right-handed defenseman, which whether you believe that matters or not, I'm a firm believer, and it does, because it's hard to get those players. There's just not as many.
I don't think it's the end-all, be-all, but I certainly think, like, if you look at the Chicago Blackhawks, if you look at them, we have one in the pipeline. I don't think it's an end-all, be-all, but I think you should have more than just one right-handed defenseman in your prospect pool. It's not, I don't think it's good to be stacked and, or completely, like, not balanced in that sense. It doesn't need to be perfectly balanced. You don't need to be drafting every right-handed defenseman in the draft. We don't need Artie the Sparty and Carter Yakimchuk, but
ooh, that'd be nice though.
Having one of them would definitely help, because now you have two, and that just come 5 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever, it'll look a little bit nice seeing that the 6 defensemen guys, and you see those 3 pairings, and they're not all just 6 left-handed defensemen.
Yeah, which there won't be. You'll trade from your left-handed defenseman to go find a righty, this or that. I firmly believe the Hawks, with one of their first 3 picks, drafts a right-handed defenseman. That I guarantee. If it's not at 2 and not at 18, it'll be at 34. Because it's a need. There's a good amount in this draft. So, there's good quantity. Everything that I've read a little bit, it's a top-heavy D-men in the beginning of this draft. So, for Kyle, does he decide he wants to pull the trigger on the first one? I don't know. He checks all the boxes for me. I believe he's a top 4 player for 12 years in the league. And as I said, I disagree with a lot of other people saying, well, the ceiling's not. I don't think I don't think for till 3 more years do you figure out exactly how good this kid could be.
Yeah.
So now whether he goes back to Michigan State, I'm hearing different things. Just remember, if like the Hawks were to draft him, he could go straight to Rockford. He could sign his contract and he can go to Rockford. He's a college player. That rule only affects people who go to the CHL. So there is that possibility.
Yeah. And I don't think, we don't know what the ceiling is. It's not that high. These kids are 17, as we explained last year when we were talking about the draft. I don't think anyone should be saying the statement, well, we don't know how high the ceiling is for this kid. They're 17. You can start saying that when they're 20 and they have a little bit more under their belt. They're still kids. We don't know anything.
Right. And yeah, I know I don't know anything. But again, the other things that I look at, he has not been coached up the way other players have been coached up, just because of where he's from and everything else. And some people might disagree with this, but he's playing against Minnesota, Michigan. I'm pretty sure Michigan's a better team than anybody that was in the Memorial Cup this year, top to bottom. So he's played against big time talent. And looked pretty good. I understand what people are saying. For a number 2 pick, I want a little more flash, and I want somebody who can carry the team on their shoulders. And I'm going to tell you right now, anybody who's on a playoff team that's a number 1 or number 2 defenseman will be carrying a team on their shoulders, flashy or unflashy.
Yeah, like I think there's definitely a distinct difference between, or flashy does not necessarily equal talent. To say a guy's not flashy, that shouldn't be a complete deterrent. Is he getting the job done? Yes. Great. Is he not? That's a different scenario. But anyway, we said that Artie the Sparty was not your Quinn Hughes, but someone who is not going to be a future Chicago Blackhawk, but has the potential, is your recent Memorial Cup champion. I'm going to try not to butcher his name. Zane Parikh, your D-man, 6 foot from the Saginaw Spirit. Compared to your Quinn Hughes, your Roman Josi, this is your highly skilled offensive defenseman. The kid's got speed. The kid can score. He had an incredible, point streak spurt from like the mid to the end of the season and very much rose quickly in the hypothetical draft prospect rankings. Definitely was not top 10 at the start of last season and very quickly rose with his performance in Saginaw. He's a playmaker, likes to score. I think he is similar to what I think they thought Kevin could be. I think he has a little bit more potential than to be that offensive defenseman that KD is wishing and hoping for Kevin to reach that potential to be. Not to say that Kevin can't, but I think this is that sort of type of player. When KD drafted Kevin, it's this kid.
Yeah, no, he is dynamic. I have not watched him much. I've caught maybe a game or 2. I do know he went on a tear. I do know during the playoffs he looked really good. I do know that his stock fell a little bit in the Memorial Cup because again, things turn on a dime and then they go, well, he's just another forward out there. Which any of your people that listen to Crusty Old Guy, I don't got a lot of need for that.
No.
I want my defensemen to play defense. I expect my forwards to provide the offense.
Yeah.
But his ceiling is way up there. He could be somebody who dictates the game completely from that position.
He is running your number 1 power play potentially. with whoever takes him.
Right. But with that, you look at a team like the Hawks, well, he's not really going to run the number one power play, because the number one power play is going to go through Connor Bedard. I don't care who you have out there.
Right.
That's the way it is. So, but he will be a difference maker. I don't know about his defense. It needs to be worked on. So that was the little bit of why he rose, and now he's slipping a little bit, but he's still like a top 6 guy.
Yeah.
And some of the people that I've heard watch him a good amount just rave and just say it's just he does things no other player can do.
Yeah.
Which, again, talent like that, does it translate? You hope for the kid it does.
Yeah.
We'll find out in 5 years. When we're doing our 6th anniversary show, we can come back to it.
Heck yeah. Next one that, crusty old guy has gotten off the Artie the Sparty train, and he is back on the MHL Russian kid train. A potential for the Blackhawks to take with the number 2 pick is your Ivan Demidov, right winger, 5'11", plays for the SKA 1946 St. Petersburg team in the MHL. Compared to Krill the Thrill, we got a clip to people calling him the human highlight reel. It's pretty much boring to watch a game now because he's just so much, like, in terms of skill, so much better than everyone else on the ice that he plays with. Just the potential is through the roof for the kid. There's always with Russian hockey players, the if they come over or the when do they come over, like we've said, past couple of weeks. I definitely do think it's a when and not an if. I don't think it's as big of a question mark as Michkov or other previous Russian hockey players who have been drafted to the NHL in the past couple of years. He only has 1 more year left on his contract in the NHL. And even if he doesn't go to the Hawks, I do see him jumping to the NHL once that contract is done. I don't see him extending. But yeah, that's Ivan Demidov, your showstopper.
Yep, Ivan the King. Yeah, I was on the Sparty train. Got more information on Ivan. Basically, number one, the thing that you worry about is the Russian factor. And then you understand the person representing him is not well liked in Russia. His MO is he gets his kids out quickly. There's also rumblings of not even doing his last year of his contract. But everything points to he would only be a year away. And for me, I like the safe pick. So if I had to choose between, the highlight reel defenseman and Artie, I'm going to take Artie because I know how solid he is going to be. But talent like Ivan's doesn't grow on trees. He's just that much more talented than everybody else that you can't pass on him. He's a difference maker. He is somebody that can come in and take over playoff games. You just can't pass on a talent like that. There was talk of, well, he didn't play in the KHL. He played in the other league. Everybody that I know of that's a kid that's signed and playing in the KHL doesn't see jack shit for minutes, no matter how good they are. Yeah. Mitch Dukoff went through that. So he was better off playing in the M anyways. I'll admit there are highlight reels of this guy. I haven't really watched them. I'm getting my information that everybody says it's unbelievable. I'm sure it is. So, but everybody says the same thing, that he's the most offensive, talented player in the draft.
Not a bad guy to pick at number 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's something that might not come along for another 3 or 4 years. And if we're in the position to draft number 2 in 3 years, well, we've got some problems, and some people are out of a job. He, I believe, will be in Florida in the next week or two. I don't know. I don't know if the
You're talking
my
about
woman is going to bed. My dog is right there. Rutu is right there. Yes, I will take care of Rutu. Um, but basically, now I'm drawing a blank. The prospect camp or whatever, huh? The combine, is that in Florida? If it's not in Florida, he is coming over to let everybody look at him to Florida. So they can check him out physically. He can do all of his interviews. He will interview with anybody that wants to interview with him. If all of that goes according to plan,
Ivan Demidov is your new Chicago Blackhawk.
then he's definitely Krusty's pick. I'd be shocked if he's not the Blackhawks pick. There would have to be some form of red flag that happened in Florida that you got worried. But as I said, the biggest one, the team that he has around him and that represents him, they're about getting that kid out and getting him to the NHL. So would I be shocked if he gave up his year?
No.
I don't know exactly how that works. Somebody has to be paid off.
Well, and I think, and then there's even rumors and rumblings of Mitchkov getting out of his contract early to come to Philly earlier than expected. And I mean, say worst comes to worst, Demidov does have to continue his final year. You know, it gives me a bit more comfort as a fan, and you'd rather see, you know, him be a year out because of contract stuff than him be a year out because he needs more time in juniors or in college to develop and to fine tune X, Y, and Z.
Yes. And again, the only other knock on him is, you know, just 5'11". So how's he going to play with Connor Bedard? Well, odds are good he won't play with Connor Bedard. That's okay. He will be driving your second line. Connor Bedard will be driving the first line. It's the way you want it anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the Blackhawks. Kane and Taves didn't play together a ton either. They will match up on the power play, I am sure. He checks every box except for the fear factor of, oh God, he's a Russian. Something bad's going to happen. You know, Kucherov is a very good hockey player. He broke all of Kucherov's records in the M. So,
you mean Kucherov?
Yes.
But yeah, so that is Demidov. Another, I want to do an honorable mention. I was just going to do top 5. And then based on what I've read, I don't know if this guy is making top 5. However, you know, from what I've heard, from what I've seen in rankings, he has the ability to be a wrench in the top 5 and kind of just change it up depending on how other teams, you know, I don't think the Blackhawks are taking him, but could Anaheim take this kid and then it kind of changes the way the rest of the draft falls? Yes. From what I've read, and that is your Anton Silyev, who is a 6'7" defenseman, playing for the Torpedo. I'm not even going to try to pronounce. He plays in the KHL. Another Russian, a huge dude, huge, uses his physicality as his primary advantage compared to your Nikita Zadorov. So, you know, not the elite comparison like some other defensemen that have been compared to, but definitely, you know, like we said with Caden Lindstrom, you know, it's changing. A lot of guys are a lot smaller. You don't see as many big guys in the top portion of the draft. I've seen him anywhere from potentially number 2. I don't think the Blackhawks are taking him at number 2, but on a hypothetical ranking, I've seen him anywhere between 2 to 7. He is physical, he's explosive, he has a lot of raw talent. It just needs to be molded and developed to reach his full potential. Um, there's potential and flashes of him being a top 4 D man. So not necessarily as much as, Artie, who could be a potential number 1, same with Zayn Parikh. But he's definitely up there. And I think anyone that has a top 5, top 10 pick in this year's draft is not going to completely, brush aside a 6'7" defenseman.
No, he's he is your first of the wild cards. I believe Elite Prospects has him ranked at like 11. Could he be the best defenseman in the draft? Yes. He's a left-handed defenseman again. Not the end of the world either. He is a massive thumper. His thing right now is his puck handling a little bit, but he's probably one of the top 3 physical players in this draft. And from everything that I've read, he's a heck of a skater. So the rest he might need to work on, but if he's 6'7" and can skate,
that's dangerous.
That's very, very dangerous. You think you're Brett Burns, you're big guys that just are able to then fly up the ice is going to be huge. He could easily be the 3rd best in this draft. He could easily be the 20th best. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely see him all over the place, which is why I wanted to give him honorable mention in the top 5, just because I've seen him up and down the first round. I definitely think he goes in the first round, but I think he could go anywhere, because really anyone that has a high draft pick this year is not going to be in the mindset of like, oh no, we're fine, we have enough like larger defensemen. If you're picking high in the first round, you really don't have a ton of anything.
Yeah, and again, he can be a difference maker physically.
Yeah.
He'll be a fun one to watch and to see exactly how good he can become. I don't know his contract situation.
We'll have more next week too.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's definitely again, he's huge and he can skate. Those don't grow on trees either. So, that's the beautiful thing about doing all the draft stuff. They all look like beautiful, shiny new toys, and then you just don't know. It's a hard league to play in, and with anybody, yeah, you're fast, but you got to be able to do so many other things to make it in the NHL, and your weaknesses are picked on quickly. They're scouted and they attack you the way they're supposed to attack you. So, yeah, I've read up a little bit on him. I don't think I've ever even seen like a clip, but I've heard enough rave reviews that he could be a special player.
He definitely could. Do you have anything more on the top guys that we've spoken about this week?
No, if you want to cut it off here, we can cut it off here. No, there is plenty to choose from. All could be difference makers. Beyond a doubt. Some might be able to carry your team for 10 years. For me, I believe the first 2 picks are locked. And then after that, things get interesting.
I don't even think ours is completely locked. Do I have a feeling that it's going more Demidov than Levshinov? Yeah, but that's just because Kyle and I think very differently. But I don't think it's a complete lock.
No, I don't think it is either. I think if you got Levshinov, are you upset? No, it's a cornerstone defenseman. You have somebody to play with Kevin Korchinski maybe for 10 years. But for me, for my dollar, yeah, I think the draft starts at 3. That's when there's questions. and nobody knows exactly what Anaheim will do. They've got some good defensive prospects, but again, it's what do you want to pick? What are you trying to build? And I for sure am not one who knows enough about each team to start to figure out how they want to start piecing everything together. All I know is your Anaheims and everybody else are saying they're going to get better too.
Yeah.
So, but no, they're all good players.
Thanks. All right, then that is a wrap on our 1-year anniversary show. We are one. Feels like we started this last week, and I also feel like we've been doing this for years. Just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to send us a message on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Crusty Old Guy's got a Twitter, friends. Facebook. You can email us at the Hockey.
He doesn't really know how to use the Twitter though. He's very confused on the whole thing.
It's okay. It's okay. We'll learn. We'll get better. But that is all for us this week, and we will talk to you guys next week.